Good evening. Good to have you with us in the Friday edition of the Urban Debate here at 8 p.m. Viewers, tonight I am back with a reminder. Some of you may not like it, but I think it's extremely necessary to remind the entire country what is of the most important issue right now, and that is the pandemic. Unlike how many of us are behaving, coronavirus hasn't gone away. Unlike how many of us are behaving, the situation is barely under control. In fact, on a daily basis, the number of cases that we are registering is inching up higher and higher. We're almost touching 1 lakh cases per month in our country. Now, some of this may be because we are testing a lot more now than we were a month ago or 2 months ago. Yes, that is true. But all of it is not because of that. A large percentage of the cases are happening today because you and I have forgotten to follow the norms. You and I have become tired in the last 6 months, and we have simply stopped caring because not enough conversation about COVID is happening anymore in our country. Because we believe that if we have not been infected in 6 months, we're all right, all ready to go outside. That's fine. I am not asking you to stay at home. But I am here to remind you that when you do step out of your homes, you need to wear a mask and you need to maintain your social distance. Irrespective of how much we unlock, irrespective of how many offices open up, irrespective of the fact that public transport has begun, irrespective of the fact that inter-district, interstate travel by flights, buses, trains has now begun, fact of the matter is the pandemic hasn't gone away. We don't need to fear it, and I will repeat this, we don't need to fear it. But we need to still remember that COVID is very much a part of our lives, the invisible enemy who will attack the minute we let our guard down. Now, tonight, one more time, we will bring to you the India Outbreak Report, a report that we have consistently brought to you week after week to paint a picture of what's really happening in our country. We tell you of the places that are doing well. We tell you about the cities, the states that are not doing well. And every single time, it has matched with what's happening on ground. This is a reflection of the ground reality. Why is it that when most projections showed that by now the cases would have begun to come down, it hasn't happened? Well, simply because we aren't following the rules. Before we break it down and take you through state after state and the details of each state, let me tell you what the key takeaways are from the India Outbreak Report that we present to you tonight. The good news is, yes, India's mortality rate has further dropped from 1.9% to 1.7%. The bad news is, we've still not hit our peak. The daily cases are rising and we've not hit the peak. That peak, in fact, has now been shifted to October, and if we don't pay attention to it today, it could get further delayed. That's a problem for you and for me. India's growth rate is gradually decreasing. Maharashtra's mortality rate has also come down to 2.9% from 3.2%, still much higher than rest of the country. Maharashtra's peak time itself has been deferred by a month. That is not good news. And I'll tell you where it's coming from Pune, from Mumbai and its outskirts. That's where cases have begun to go up again. Karnataka's mortality rate has just moved a little lower from 1.7 to 1.6%. Karnataka is still one of the worst hit states with a spike in cases. Did very well in the first few months, is still struggling now. Delhi's mortality rate has also come down, but Delhi has seen such a spike, and all of it is not because of higher testing. So over the next 90 minutes in this special broadcast, we are going to talk about the cities and states that need our attention. We are also going to name and shame some of those VVIP violators who, instead of leading the campaign for social distancing, are actually the biggest violators tonight in our country. Let me start with what's happening in Maharashtra as we say good evening to the first set of guests. Mahesh Tapase, spokesperson for the NCP, joining me right now. I've also got Dr. Pradeep Banandur, Additional Professor for Department of Epidemiology, joining us right now, and Dr. Sanjeev Bagai, Chairman for Nephron Clinics, with us. As we progress, representatives of different parties from different states will keep joining us. But we are going to start this conversation with what's really also happening in Maharashtra. And if you see the curve for Maharashtra and for Mumbai, it's the same. In Mumbai, we had begun to see a drop in cases. That's gone up again. In Maharashtra, the peak was supposed to be in September. It's now pushed to 8th of October, at which point we will have over 4 lakh cases. And then obviously the end date from once upon a time what was supposed to be September has now shifted to December. The peak has been delayed by a month. This is what is concerning. Mumbai had seen a significant drop and is now seeing another peak, another climb up, which is not good news. We have beds and ventilators that have been added, but at this rate, we may run out of them as well in the coming few days. Keep that in mind, viewers. Pune has been a constant sad story and it continues to be the biggest. And I will tell you what, people on ground are not following rules. It's as simple as that. Let's go across to our panelists as we bring to you more details of the numbers from Maharashtra as well as the cities within Maharashtra. But good evening to Dr. Sanjeev Bagai. Dr. Bagai, let's begin with you. Every day, 90,000, 95,000, 96,000 cases are being registered. In the state of Maharashtra, just in a week, we've registered 1.5 lakh cases. Shouldn't we be treating this as a reminder that we cannot be letting our guard down?
Good evening, Tanvi, all the panelists and all the viewers. I think it's extremely important that we continue to focus and we continue to follow the path of public awareness. Now, there is no graph which is intuitive because it depends upon human behavior. We know that this virus is going to stay for a while. I mean, it can take many months, many years within the Indian subcontinent. But we know that we are riding this wave. There is no question at the present moment of flattening the curve. There is no question of second wave or third wave because we are still underwater at the present moment. Very clearly, this is a bushfire and it is going to burn every piece of wood which comes in its way. The onus is on the citizen. The onus is on society. The onus is on us. The government can do as much as it can do. And I've been categorically in stating this for many months now, that the onus is on us as citizens, as medical professionals, to continue to disseminate this knowledge so that people do not put their guard down. We know that social distancing, masking, and hand hygiene are the 3 cornerstones to survive in this year. This is not a time to play for glory. Tanvi, allow me just 60 seconds, and I want to mention a few very critical points. We know that the earlier understanding was that it is through surfaces, the transmission is through doorknobs or tabletops. Now we know that it's airborne through microaerosols. We know that the mask not covering the nose is not wearing a mask at all. We know that 82% of the transmissions happens through the nose. Asymptomatic carriers, silent spreaders, and super spreaders are going to kill the game for us. We know that every person who is actually asymptomatic may be a harborer and carrier of this infection. We also know that the summer has not made any impact on it. In fact, the relative humidity in monsoons can increase the spread 7 times. The comorbidities in India are what is hurting India right now. Obesity, hypertension, diabetes. So we need to protect the vulnerable and we need to protect the elderly. Lastly, the society should not wait for the herd immunity. We know that every state, every city which is badly hit in US and in European Union don't cross 19 to 20% as antibodies which are transient. We are still learning about this virus. This is something which is very new. We have no experience in it. The only way we can protect ourselves is think of every opportunity to protect yourself. This is a message to society at large. Protect yourself, protect your near ones. Do not take risks. Do not go to the dreaded Cs. That's crowded spaces, closed spaces, poorly ventilated spaces, community living, and wear a mask. Mask is your survival mode for this year.
Oh yes, absolutely. And when you wear a mask, cover your nose and your mouth, not your forehead, definitely not your chin. That's not really going to help at all. And I think people are simply forgetting that fact. They don't want to wear it for too long. They think they're all right. They're not showing any symptoms. Nobody around them seems to be showing any symptoms. So it's okay to let their guard down. It doesn't work like that. Instance after instance from across the country, it just shows that the minute any city, in any area, any district has seen crowding, has seen people not follow the norms, immediately the number of cases have gone up. Immediately then the crisis of running around trying to get a bed, trying to get a hospital has begun. Please remember, it's not to say that this disease will definitely kill you, but this disease, if you get infected, may make you go through a lot of trauma, you and your family. And that's what we are trying to avoid at this point of time. Let me also bring in right now Dr. Pradeep Banandur. Dr. Banandur, is it more about the fact that we've just become tired of it, or that when people see, the system being unlocked, they completely forget why we had gone into a lockdown to begin with?
Right. Thank you, Tanvi and other panelists. Good evening. So, it's kind of a release phenomenon which generally happens with any community, and more so when we have been part of the lockdown previously, and something which not many common man understands. They thought corona would be gone before we actually open the before we actually unlock, but that was not the case, and somewhere down the line we have partially been successful in communicating this information that lockdown was more to prepare ourselves for the upsurge of cases and other things, and not to none of us or for that matter anybody had the wishful or optimistic thinking of corona would be gone before we would start the unlocking. So that is where there would be some release phenomenon, so that after unlock 4 everything is open and people would like to rush because they were kind of tied down to their houses, and only for essentials they would come out of the house and then remain mostly inside the houses for most part of their life for the past 6 months or so. Now that it has happened, you are true in saying that it is like people have gone into relaxation. It is just like, oh, maybe it doesn't affect me kind of a syndrome. But this release phenomenon, my wishful thinking would be that it would not stay for long, because people know that it is dangerous and they might become infected. But for sure, for livelihood, they are getting into different their jobs and going out of the household. But I think there is some amount of relaxation set in, or complacency I would call set in, saying that it's all done, corona is going to live with us and it's not going to affect us kind of a thing. But I would like to remind the viewers that it's kind of 100% secondary attack rate which we are seeing with this virus, meaning if one person gets in the household, everybody is likely to get it within the incubation period of 5 to 7 days, because it is highly transmissible, and we need to maintain strict isolation and social distancing to avoid other family members also. We are seeing within our neighborhoods that every member of the household is being infected once an individual gets from outside. So we need to be very careful. We can't be very relaxed.
Yeah.
So this is something which I would like to tell the viewers.
Yes, and
yeah.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for pointing that out. In fact, I'm going to add to it. A lot of times there are now instances around us. If we talk to people, we will find out these examples where, those who've stayed at home, not stepped out, especially the elderly, are the ones who are now, being detected with COVID, because youngsters who may be at home but are going in and out, maybe the carriers of infection never showed signs or never really, recovered without realizing it. But it's the elderly now who are having a tough time, who caught that infection and are struggling. So we need to keep in mind that even if we don't show the signs, we may be carrying it and we may be infecting others. Mahesh Tapase, Mumbai had a great run for a few weeks where things seemed to be a little under control. Again, we are seeing a spike. Today, we've also got news, even in Dharavi, for the first time in many weeks, we've seen 30, 35 cases being reported. What's going on and what's the plan of action then?
Good evening, Tanvi, all panelists and all viewers. I must congratulate you, Tanvi, for taking up this such a bold subject and making us all aware of our responsibility towards ourselves, our family, and our society. There's a limitation to the role that a government can do. If the government puts a deterrent on the movement of the people, then it's a bad government. If the government does not put a deterrent, then there's a blame that it freely allows the virus to spread. So here, like all the panelists earlier said, and like how you mentioned it also, that we as citizens had to realize that we are living in times of COVID. The COVID virus is not going to go off so easily. The vaccine, which was supposed to be coming, does not seem to be coming so soon as of now. But yes, what we can do is we can change our mindset, we can change our behavior. The Mumbai, I hear a lot of youngsters say, "Arey, abhi tak 6 mahine mein nahi hua to ab kya hoga?" So this kind of lax attitude is absolutely uncalled for. You just don't know when it's going to hit you. It might just ambush you into the disease. So that is something which has to be made aware all the time to all the people in the society, irrespective of their profession. It does not discriminate between men, women, high, low, whatever. So, like how Dr. Bagai said, I totally agree that it's a behavioral change that we have to incorporate in our daily living.
Yes, absolutely. For the viewers who are in Maharashtra right now, let me tell you, we've got about 9.9 lakh cases, active cases about 2.6 lakh. Just in the last 1 week, 1.46 lakh cases and 2,696 deaths have been recorded, which is why we need to be careful. And we're going to unlock even more. That's what we're doing, and we should. We can't forever be locked in our own homes. People need to travel, people need to work, people need to earn a living. But keep in mind, as more flights begin to land, as buses take you from one place to the other, from one city to the other, and more bus services are now starting, as hotels begin to function in full strength, which has been allowed, we have to keep in mind that it is now our responsibility. Dr. Shashank Joshi, the onus is on people now to follow the rules. When rules have been put in place and infrastructure has been put in place, there is only so much that the government can also force you to do.
Tanvi, I think I agree with you completely. I think we need both, but we need empowerment of people and citizens at large, but we also need little bit of enforcement. I think we need a dual weapon. Just telling people that they should have a COVID appropriate behavior may not be sufficient, which is why we are seeing explosive numbers. I think little bit of enforcement is needed. Masking has to be mandatory. Remember, Singapore, if you don't wear a mask, you are fined $5,000. On the New York street, if you don't wear a mask, you are fined $500. So that is enforcement. Some degree of enforcement may be needed. As all our colleagues and panelists have said, that we need to ensure that COVID appropriate behavior of masking, distancing, avoiding poorly ventilated spaces, overcrowding, all that has to be done. But I think we still need our public health infrastructure to be ramped up. We cannot give up testing, tracing, isolating. And we should not come late. And we have to do reverse isolation of our senior citizens and our vulnerable group with comorbidity. Unless and until we do that, we will lose lives. We have to save lives, get our case fatality below 1%. Numbers will go up. But if we do not enforce with a lot of empowerment, a people's will with public health, both in order, and there's a perfect union, only then we can make a dent. Otherwise, as we unlock more, we are doomed for more numbers. And I wish and pray that we are able to stem this somewhere. I think it's time for people to wake up and also our machinery to do a little bit of enforcement in a very strict way.
No, So where do you think that the governments have let their guard down, or the local administration seems to be letting its guard down? Dr. Shashank Joshi, or do you believe that we need to come up with fresh, tougher rules?
No, I think they have tried their best, but I think in terms of policing and enforcement of some basic laws like spitting or masking, they can be stricter. I think a little bit of strictness in that respect is definitely needed. Even today, when I walk on the streets of Mumbai, we still don't see people with masks. I think little bit of enforcement is mandatory. And also people and other citizens, fellow citizens who are walking near them without a mask should also ensure that they wear a mask. So we need cooperation. We need definitely cooperation is always better than coercion. And always enforcement is not the order of the day. It should be empowerment. But I think it's time for everybody to wake up to save themselves. We have to save our own people, our own families, our own brothers and sisters. I appeal to everybody that please mask, please behave responsible. Responsible behavior is a citizen's duty. But I think somehow or the other that is not happening. But I think our enforcement agencies also need to be a little stricter, because I think some danda is needed somewhere, because otherwise, we are losing the plot.
Okay, Mahesh Tapase, do you want to respond to that? I know that, for example, in the city of Pune, they have now started implementing a fine, and they are strictly on roads in the last week, 10 days. They have started fining people who are not wearing masks, even inside their vehicles. But it's not happening at a uniform, consistent level across cities, definitely not in Mumbai.
Just a piece of information that I would like to add to the knowledge of Dr. Joshi. When the BMC started collecting fine from people who were not wearing masks, the fine amounted to the tune of 2.5 million rupees. Whereas in Pune, now we have over 26,000 active cases in the city of Mumbai. Whereas in Pune, the amount of fine that is collected is 1.1 crore, almost 10 million rupees. That's a big, big number. And that's the reason we see that the figures in Pune are close to about 60,000 active cases, and this is absolutely it absolutely sends chills down our spines. Like, this is the state of affairs in such a advanced city like Pune. We can just imagine what would be in other parts of the country. Yes, but as a government, we have been enforcing tests. We have done almost close to about 5 million tests across Maharashtra, and like you rightly said, that about 20% or about 9.9 lakh cases have been confirmed positive in those tests. People have been quarantined, people have been discharged, people have recovered, but that does not get us out of the pandemic. It increases our responsibility all the more to be more vigilant, to be more caring. I was reading a piece of news today that the government ordered that 80% of the oxygen that is made in Maharashtra to be diverted to all the hospitals and only 20% to the industries. This is the latest thing which I read today evening as a piece of information. So whatever best could be done, we are doing. Yes, we have failed in making the infrastructure for health in last 50, 60 years. But now this pandemic has hit us in the face, not only Maharashtra, not only India, but the global scenario, even the Western countries, the more developed countries with better infrastructure.
Mr. Tapase, I would have not brought this up had you not said that whatever you could do best, you are doing that. That's not true. Let's look at the example of Pune or even in Mumbai. The Pune Jumbo facility went live only now, 5.5 months after the pandemic hit us, and that also by our own minister's admission was a rush job, which is why it's a chaos and it's a mess. And the people did struggle for getting a bed, for getting doctors in the city of Pune. From what it seems like, the government's attention in the past week, 10 days has been completely elsewhere. All your ministers, even your elected representatives, during the assembly session are talking about completely things which are not related to COVID. Kangana Ranaut seems to be more important to us right now than coronavirus.
As far as my government is concerned and my party is concerned, my battle is definitely with Corona. And that's the reason why I'm here. As far as the Jumbo Hospital in Pune, you were saying there have been certain lacunas which have been put to order. Initially, the two Jumbo Hospital which started in Pune probably didn't so well, and we also lost a young reporter in Pune, and a lot of other patients were put to inconvenience, which has been duly rectified. Now you have to understand, as a government, there's a pressure from the people, pressure from the media, start the hospital, then we rope in another private agency to monitor, to facilitate, to do the medication, and suddenly their entire staff loses control over the hospital and they quit. So you have to understand that at times the government is also vulnerable. It's the humans, it's you and me who are part of the government. It's professionals like Dr. Bagai and Dr. Bandur who are part, and Dr. Joshi who are part of the government system, who run the system. So there can be a collapse of the system at times, but that does not dampen our spirit. We rise again, we rise stronger again. Yes, we have to fight COVID, and yes, we will win over COVID.
Yes, but I'm just saying don't let the ball drop. I'm just saying don't get distracted irrespective of what it is. Perhaps you need to remind your ally as well that runs the civic body that the civic body has a lot more important things to do in a city like Mumbai when it comes to coronavirus than going after one person and demolishing one building. Thank you, Mahesh Tapase, for joining us right now. I am going to move on to the second big conversation point, which is Delhi. And we're going to bring up the Delhi numbers for you. Delhi, again, viewers, they have significantly ramped up their testing, yes, but the percentage of rise in testing is not proportional to the percentage of rise in cases. What does that mean? That means that we are letting our guard down. That means that we are getting out without mask. We are not maintaining social distancing. Delhi is again a city where now pubs have opened up, metro services have begun, more people will be going to office, traffic jams are very clearly visible because of that, and that's fine. But if we forget the basic rules, then imagine how difficult it will be. I am not advocating another lockdown. I am reminding you that the test positive ratio for Delhi, that the number of cases for Delhi is going up. And that is become a problem right now. September 4th, 2,914 cases were recorded. September 7th, 2,077 cases were recorded. September 8th, 3,609 cases were recorded. September 10th, yesterday, 4,308 cases were recorded. 28 deaths. What is happening in the city of Delhi? Let me actually bring in, go back to our experts on that. Dr. Bagai, maybe, we can begin with you. For Delhi again, what we are witnessing, is there any other cause for the spike that we've seen in the last few weeks?
Yeah, I think this is an important point, which is not only reflective of Delhi, but I would say a reflective model pan-India. More we test, more positivity we will find. It's not an ominous sign. So I'm not concerned with the total number of patients which we continue to test and pick up as positive. The important thing is for every positive test which we document, there would probably be on international databases about 80 to 100 people in the society who would have come in contact with this infection at some point of time and fought it off. So the true ratio what we need to check is the corrected case fatality. And overall, not only in Delhi, which has done reasonably well so far, our case fatality is low. Our aim is to save lives. Our aim is to save the comorbids. At the present moment, our total fatality rate is 1.7. I would dare say that this actually would be less than 1% already if we do the antibody testing on a large rampant scale. Please understand, our lockdown measures in certain states which are being done are illogical because it's being based on the antigen test. Unless until we don't get a serosurveillance in a community level through an antibody test, we will not get the true number. So going forward, I think we need to continue to test at least for another 2 months to 3 months. We need to continue to do contact tracing. That's the only primary aim of getting a community spread map in terms of a trackway established. Delhi has not done bad. Delhi has done, in fact, very, very well. At the present moment, the surge is there because the borders are open. So we are seeing patients from about 5 or 6 states which are intersecting Delhi crisscross. Two important points, Tanvi, I would like to mention is that till now we were always saying that children are less vulnerable. All recent data at the present moment has stated that children carry 100 times more load than adults in the nasal passage. So I think children need to be very well protected. So therefore, schools and colleges should not open in a hurry and classes must go online for the time being. And the other extremely important point is young adults. Young adults are the tricky lot because they will very quickly throw caution to the wind. They will go to parties, they may go to pubs, they may go to hotels. And again, recent studies from US has stated double the mortality rate in the age group of 18 to 34. So the young adults need to be very, very careful. And in the end, the thing which can hurt India the most is the hidden risk factors of comorbidity. Hypertension, diabetes, cardiac disease, obesity, these are the 4 cornerstones which India is a hub of. 61% of the overall morbidity and mortality in India is because of non-communicable diseases. So I think we need to focus to protect these people. We need to protect them so that they don't transmit the infection back home to the elderlies. I think it's a collective task, it's a collaborative task. I think the government in Delhi has done a reasonably good job. In fact, I would compliment all the governments. It's not an easy task. If you sit back and you will watch and you will look at 2020 with a crystal ball after a couple of years, you'll actually see what a moment. It's a mammoth task which each state government has done. Some states have done better, some have not done that well. But I think at the present moment, there is really no time of any sinister criticism. We need to collectively support the government in its policies. We as citizens are the carriers of their policies. They cannot come into a house to ask us what to do. They can advise us. It is up to us as citizens and as medical professionals to implement what the law is. I think we need to be law-abiding. We need to be patient for the next 3-4 months. We don't have to create harakari. We don't have to be flamboyant. We just have to put our head down and tide over this year. I'm reasonably sure that the vaccine will come at some point of time in 2021. It's not going to come in a hurry as was projected in this year. I think it's going through certain hurdles. We won't discuss that right now. But let's not bank on herd immunity. Let's not bank on a vaccine. Bank on your own ability to protect yourself. And if you don't protect yourself, every citizen is to blame.
Yeah. So how do we go about doing that? Dr. Ajay Kumar, good evening to you. You've created the healthcare infrastructure. We are now unlocking. Cases are bound to go up. We have seen the spike in Delhi as well. How do you ensure that things don't go out of control from here on? Tougher implementation of the norms? Should we start penalizing people in a more stricter manner? Those who don't follow social distancing, those who are not wearing their mask as they step out of their homes?
Look, Tanvi, at the end of the day, like Dr. Bagai correctly said, what's in our hand is what we can do for in terms of creating the infrastructure, educating the people. But there is a limit to which you can police, the basic, the citizens of, and I feel that the citizens of Delhi would definitely respond. We are continuously trying to educate, and everybody else, and all governments are trying to educate. We will continue in our endeavor, and the people, it's not that the people are not responding. See, Tanvi, one of the interesting data which I was reading before the show was, the ICMR did a sero survey. And the sero survey in May shows that for every one person detected for infection, there were 83 to, let me check the numbers, but they were somewhere close from 83 to 100 odd people who were infected. So in May, actually,
130, yes.
Yeah, so in India had 45 lakh people actually infected. We are showing 45 lakhs or 4.5 million now. So the question again is, how do we make sure that we ensure that no person who can be saved pays the price for lack of poor healthcare facilities in terms of beds for ICUs, etc. Continuously educating, trying to ensure that in the public transport system, which is in our domain, we ensure in public places, we ensure that those norms are applied, continuously educating, hoping that the people also will educate people, will educate each other. But I'll give an example. I was just reading somebody was telling me that there was a flight in a Bombay Delhi flight where an elderly person asked a young person to put a mask, and he turned around and slapped the old man back. Now, those incidences continue to happen. We will do our best. Delhi is, I think, ramped up the test, and we will continue to ramp up the test. Now you can go and get your test done on your own. People who are positive immediately isolate. The best way is to be absolutely transparent in terms of what is the situation. And India is, and not to take pot shots at my political opponents, but it's very important that I've seen some state governments not even giving the actual death numbers or the actual numbers. Now, the question is, whatever they do, the more you expose the truth that who is infected, the more person knows, and they protect themselves, protect others by not going around self-isolating. We will be in a much more steadier road. We will continue to try to get Delhi back economically also, because there is huge untold miseries of lack of source of income and etc. So the balancing the board, like you correctly said, Tanvi, we need to balance between ensuring that work happens without going crazy on the infection rate and spreading it, far and wide. So testing, identification, and transparently sharing.
So the other point, Dr. Ajay Kumar, right, the other point that was raised was about schools reopening. Now, this has been left to, the discretion of the states, of course, the schools, even for students, it's voluntary for 9 to 12 classes, whether they want to come to school or not. What is the thought process within the Delhi government as far as schools are concerned?
No, as far as schools are concerned, we are going to tread very carefully still. We need to evaluate. Because look, at the end of the day, the children may not be so vulnerable, but the children of our population, we need to be extremely careful, because those norms of social distancing and other norms can be explained to adults to a large extent. But for children, those rules change very quickly, and it's not fair. So we are cautiously careful on this. We will evaluate it. We will take a very so honestly, right now, it's a work in progress. We need to evaluate, think it through very thoroughly before we take any steps on schools. We want to be 100% sure. And we are Tanvi, look, the other challenges is just not opening schools. How do children reach schools? What are the method in which they get transported? Are those going to open them to more infection? What are the, can the government schools across Delhi, and which includes even MCD schools, because we can't say that Delhi government schools are going to take precaution, and the MCD schools which are under the BJP, if they are able to take those precautions or not. Children of Delhi are children of Delhi. They are not MCD children or Delhi government children. So those are challenges we face. We will evaluate it too early in the day. Right now, metro is starting. We are looking at, and you've seen the numbers also, but ensuring that the metro social distancing norms, the travel norms are implemented across religiously with our eye on ensuring it happens is our top priority. And the other top priority is to continuously identify patients, home isolation, and move people who show even very early signs of oxygen deficit to a higher care center, so that there is no loss of life.
Yeah. Okay, in fact, the other big point that I wanted to discuss, and let me bring in Dr. Pradeep Banandur on this. Dr. Banandur, we're restarting, public transport in many of our cities right now. Even the metro services have been initiated in many of the cities, and people are, bound to end up in crowded situations. What should we keep in mind when we get onto public transport, which may be unavoidable? What would your advice be to people in terms of precautions?
Again, I would second what Dr. Sanjeev Bagai told. So it is, and also Dr. Ajay, basically it is education, empowerment and enforcement. These three things. I would ask and urge the citizens to be very careful now, more than they were before, and they need to be kind of educated to follow social distancing norms, not rush to do things, still follow the rule that if it is absolutely essential to get out of the house, let them go out, otherwise let them stay back. And of course wearing the mask and covering their nose and mouth and appropriately wearing the mask is what they are supposed to do. And there are some deviations which happen, and such deviations need to be taken care of by enforcement. I think we need to, at least in Karnataka, we don't have very high fine rates for not wearing the mask, and I am not very confident, or the enforcement has not been very good here compared to what has been done in Pune or Mumbai, as Tapseji told. So we need to have education, empowerment and enforcement is what I would say, and citizens need to be more careful and more responsible to actually prevent the infection from occurring. If these unlock 4 or the next unlock 5 is going to release everything, I would foresee the cases raising. One, because there is more interaction and the virus has more number of susceptibles to infect, but we being more careful is the vaccine for preventing that spread, or combating that spread, or reducing that spread. I would say education, empowerment and enforcement, the 3 E's, is something which we need to look at, and the citizens need to be kind of very cognizant that they need to be empowered, and they need to have their own enforcement. It's like individual social responsibility, I would call, so that they participate with the efforts of the government and other fraternity to actually combat this virus. And as one of my my co-panelists told, it is better to stay back, put our heads down for this year and wait for the vaccine to come, and also the infection rates and test positivity rates to come down over time. So until then, we will have to put our heads down, follow these 3: education, enforcement and empowerment. That's my take.
Oh yes, I absolutely, I understand what you're saying, but I think, irrespective of the fact that some of our cities may have got some additional healthcare infrastructure, it may not be enough if the cases get out of hand, and we are seeing that we are inching very close to that kind of a situation in cities like Mumbai and Pune, let alone the smaller cities, the rural areas where we've not even built that kind of an healthcare infrastructure. And as movement of people begins from one place to the other and the infection spreads to newer districts, that is becoming a problem. I just want to take our viewers through some of the other states. Let's begin with Tamil Nadu and what's happening as far as Tamil Nadu is concerned. In Tamil Nadu, again, it continues to be one of the worst hit states, and the cases have pretty much plateaued. There is no relief coming in. Every day in cities like Chennai as well, a high number of cases are still being registered. In Tamil Nadu, Chennai, Tiruvallur, Madurai, Chengalpattu still need to be kept in focus, and people again here, including their own leaders and ministers, keep forgetting to wear a mask, keep forgetting to follow the rules. Let me actually also bring in Telangana. Telangana again is a state where the cases are continuously still inching. They haven't reached their peak yet, viewers. I want to emphasize on this, the peak dates keep getting pushed back. Also because we are not following the norms. Yes, we are doing more testing, so more cases are being registered. But the states have to keep this in mind. As more movement happens, you will see these spikes, which is why we cannot let our guard down. Let's also bring in Kerala. Again, hasn't hit its peak yet. Cases are constantly on the rise. Let's even take a look at Karnataka. And that's the state I'm going to be talking about after this short break. Dr. Ajay Kumar, thank you for joining us. I request our experts to stay on with us as we talk about what's happening in some of the southern states, specifically in Karnataka, that's also significantly unlocked. There is an added problem of heavy rainfall, landslides and flooding in many parts. How do we tackle that? Stay with me here on The Urban Debate. viewers, we told you about the states of Tamil Nadu, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, which are witnessing continuous rise in cases. India itself is hitting 1 lakh cases every day. We are hitting that mark now, 95,000, 96,000 cases every day. So let's not act as if COVID has gone away. Let's not pretend that this still isn't our biggest challenge apart from the economic slowdown. Let's remember that we need to follow the rules, we need to wear a mask, we need to maintain our distance. Now let's talk about Karnataka. Why is it important and why Karnataka needs to keep these few rules in mind? I'll tell you why. It's further unlocked. Metro services have begun in Bengaluru. The pubs and bars have reopened. There's a spike in violation of norms which is taking place, which is now a noted fact. Floods in the state have increased the risk of infection. Borders have opened up. Free-flowing movement of people is happening from one part to the other. More flights, more buses. This is happening in every state, and Karnataka is no different. Then how can we let our guard down? That's the question I'm asking. Let me also say good evening to Mr. S. Prakash, spokesperson for BJP in Karnataka. Mr. Prakash, how do we ensure that even as we unlock, the cases are under control? We were supposed to be peaking by now, but on a daily basis, India and most states are hitting new records in terms of cases.
In Karnataka, in the past several days, more than 75,000 people are being tested for the COVID, which was almost only 10% about 2 months back. And the cases also have gone up with the increase in number of tests being carried every day. And there are about 9,000 cases being reported every day. And the recovery rate is 76.1%. Last month, it was 37% in Karnataka. And the mortality rate is, you have shown it is 1.16%. Certainly, the recovery is happening and mortality is under control. People have to keep their guard up. They should not be recklessly behaving. They should realize Corona is a threat and it is a continued threat. Until and unless we maintain the social distancing and follow all the norms government prescribes, we cannot escape from the coronavirus.
No, that is true. But people are not remembering that, Mr. Prakash. Everywhere we're seeing more and more lockdown violations from politicians, sitting ministers to people. Now, what is the plan of action for tougher implementation of rules?
See, it is the awareness of the people only can help to contain the coronavirus. By rules, by using police force, you cannot control this. And moreover, I find as a Bangalorean, the people are certainly aware of this crisis, and the fear of corona is certainly making them to remain cautious, and everyone is wearing masks and social distance are maintained to a great extent. I don't say they are 100% reckless. Certainly more needs to be done. That is by it is the awareness, and people should realize their life is in their own hands, not in the hands of police or by the standard operating procedures government prescribes. Only then we can fight this. And another aspect is certain section of the society is not prepared to get themselves tested. This fear should go. Corona is curable. The very fact that 76% is cured, it should give them confidence that they should come forward for testing. Now with the changed norms that anyone random checking is possible, voluntarily also if somebody comes forward, they should be tested. I'm sure in the coming days with the more increased number of tests, we will be able to contain the numbers well within the prescribed limit.
Well, let me go across to Dr. Shashank Joshi. Dr. Joshi, is this still a problem that we need to, talk a lot more about? The stigma is still stopping people from coming forward, from getting themselves tested?
Because we can clearly see that people still have the fear and stigma, and they come late, and that is why we lose a few lives. And it is very, very important that, as the person from Bangalore BJP said, that we need to empower them. They need to come early. At the first symptom, if they come and test, then they are actually mitigating the spread. If they test after 5 days, they will contact another 10 people per day. So 50 people more are spread. So at the first symptom, they should test without fear. They need to be fearless in testing, but careful in behavior. And that is the order of the day. And I agree with them that there's a lot of stigma, particularly in the hinterland, in the rural, but even in the cities. And that is why a lot of education, empowerment, and telling them that this is a controllable virus. If most people will recover, 85% are going to be pre-symptomatic, mildly symptomatic, and it's only a small vulnerable group. And that is why, again, reiterate the point, reverse isolate vulnerable population, senior citizens and comorbidities, and rest of the population, just enforce SNEEP, but empower them with appropriate behavior. It is self-protection, self-defense, and be fearless on the stigma. I think there is no harm if somebody gets COVID. There is no need to ostracize that person. We need to be just cautious and careful. And we need to live with corona without any fear.
In fact, that is a point that I want to also bring in Dr. Sanjeev Bagai. Dr. Bagai, the fear and the stigma of it, how do we get rid of that? Because if we don't have enough people being tested, then obviously the silent spreaders will just go about spreading it.
That's an important point. I think the social stigma and the fear which is associated with COVID-19 needs to be removed, and actually needs to be removed on a very quick basis. While we unlock, I think we also need to unlock testing. So since last week, Delhi, we don't require a prescription. We need to remove the hindrances for testing. A common citizen should be in a capacity to go to a laboratory and get himself tested. I think we need to decentralize major hospitals, government and private, so that the local clinics and the local centers can actually manage the initial symptoms. We know that it is airborne. We need to inform the public accordingly. We need to make testing easily approachable and accessible to the citizens. We don't need those huge posters, on the doors and the windows of people's houses that this is the COVID house. You see, we need to remove this kind of anxiety which is being created. The public health measures need to be strengthened in all cities. And I think enforcement of mask is critical. If the police or any law enforcement authority finds in certain market areas or places where fruit is sold or essentials are sold, where there is overcrowding, I think they need to come in a strict manner. We need to tide over this next 2 to 3 months. Like I've said earlier, we need to rely on simple protocols, not complicated. Vast majority of patients do not be at risk. It's a small fraction which we need to protect, and I'm sure we'll come out in a cleaner manner by the end of this year.
Okay, because the point here is, Dr. Banandur, that the COVID isn't really going away. We aren't getting a vaccine anytime soon. Some of the drugs, even the plasma therapy that we know of, works in some cases, doesn't always really necessarily work. So the only resort for us is actually to take precautions. Now, we can't continue to be locked up in our homes constantly, but we do have to ensure that we take our precautions, because many states and many cities are showing how either the cases are going up or they're simply plateaued at that level. And I suspect a lot of that is to do with not just higher testing, but the fact that we are not following the rules.
You are right. And to add to what my other panelists told, destigmatizing actually makes people to get into more testing, and after testing, the sooner they approach the medical help, that is where we can, one, reduce spread, two, prevent mortality. And within Karnataka, we have done fairly well in terms of mortality, and that's more because one reason is we have made the environment conducive for people to go for testing. in terms anybody can go for testing anywhere, and there is no such thing as containment, barricading, labeling the house, which has been removed in the past 2 weeks, and that has made people more comfortable. And also our chief minister and our opposition leaders and many celebrities who got affected or infected by COVID, they were open enough in their Twitter handles and Facebook asking their people who came in contact with them to get tested. This kind of openness in declaring that they were COVID positive have made people believe that this is not something which needs to be stigmatized, and they are coming forward for testing. And another thing is we have kind of eased out these containment measures, like putting the onus more on the person who is infected to self-isolate and then to seek care. And the Karnataka government, from the government side, is also this. There is these caller lines where they can contact. At the same time, the government calls them up and then asks them to get medical care. And home isolation is a big success in Karnataka. About 50 to 60% of people are opting for home isolation. Thereby, it has reduced the burden on health sector in terms of hospital beds, and slowly it is getting standardized, and that is where we are kind of ahead of other places. But in terms of the number of cases going high, if you see the trajectory, we started later than Maharashtra, Delhi or Tamil Nadu, and we will be peaking late. And we thought September would be the peak. Now that Maharashtra peak is delayed, we are also delayed to an extent, and maybe our peak is November or December, I am not very sure. But your trajectory shows that September 28th is when we peak. But of course, destigmatizing is something which we need to, which we are working on, and it is showing some amount of success in Karnataka. And there are cases where our, as you call the jumbo facility, the CIEC facility is going to get closed down because people are opting more for home isolation, and we have to increase our ICU beds and oxygen and other things rather than looking at COVID care centers, because home isolation seems to be a success, although it is very early to say.
Yes, you're right. You're right, because that's been a significant change in the policy, where we don't need everybody in care centers, only the serious cases who then need ventilators and ICU beds more than anything else. So a lot of these facilities that were made in a rush are not really required. But in many cases, especially the one that I was referring to, for example, in the city of Pune, even cases that do need medical attention was struggling, which is why this facility was created. But I'm completely out of time. I'm going to thank all of our guests for joining us on the first part of this conversation. Like I promised you, viewers, this is a 90-minute special broadcast. We're calling it the Friday Review in our war against coronavirus. And while the first part spoke about your and my responsibility, the first part highlighted how data shows what the ground reality exactly is, that in states like Maharashtra, we are now beginning to lose control over our cases because we've let our guard down in cities like Mumbai, in cities like Pune, and in cities like Delhi. This is not just about higher testing. Yes, the testing has gone up, but you will see, for example, in the state of Maharashtra, when the cases would have gone up over 75% in 1 month, the testing went up only by 20-25%. In the city of Delhi as well, the ratio was double. The number of tests that had gone up versus the number of cases that were being registered. So let's not fool ourselves by simply saying, because we are testing more today, because we are doing a great job at tracking, isolating, the number of cases are going up. And we need to keep this in mind. But now let's talk about the VVIP violators. The first part was about you and me. The second part needs to be our leaders, who are not really leading in the right sense when it comes to our war against COVID. In fact, they are the brand ambassadors of exactly what not to do. They are the ones who are telling us COVID has gone away. You don't need to follow rules. You don't need to follow social distancing. You don't need to be wearing your mask. Across party lines, I have got examples today of how politicians are the most ignorant in our country when it comes to following the rules. And obviously, because nobody is going to penalize them, nobody is going to fine them for breaking the rules. Let's begin with the man who topped the charts. This Friday review that we've done for our VVIP violators, right on top is BJP's Dilip Ghosh. Listen into what he had to say.
করোনা চলে গেছে দিদিমণি শুধু ঢং করছেন লকডাউন করছেন যাতে বিজেপি মিটিং মিছিল না করতে পারে কিন্তু বন্ধুগণ আমরা যেখানে বেরিয়ে পড়বো সেখানে মিছিল হয়ে যাবে যেখানে দাঁড়িয়ে যাবো সেখানেই মিটিং হয়ে যাবে কেউ আটকাতে পারবে না
In case you missed that, he is basically saying Corona chole gache. Corona has gone and everything else is just a creation, just theatrics and drama by Didi. I know there are elections that are fast approaching the state. I know the battle between BJP and TMC is going to be a close one and an ugly one. But are you seriously willing to play with lives of people, to lie to them, to mislead them? At a time when the state is registering close to 2 lakh cases, here is the BJP state chief saying Corona has gone. And he is not the only one. Let me tell you about some of the other great VVIP violators that we have in our country, and they are actually from different states. We have from Congress Party, we have from AIADMK, we have from YSRCP, we have more from BJP itself that I want to actually read out here in detail for you. Punjab Finance Minister violated Corona norms, violated social distancing norms, completely forgot about it. Half of Punjab's cabinet has been recently in quarantine. And the minute they've come out of quarantine, they've forgotten about why they were there in the first place. From YSRCP, the party workers have gone on a protest. Now, in many cases, we've seen how even protests have been with smaller number of people just to get your message across as a symbolic messaging where people have worn masks and maintained their distance. Not in this one, not in the one that was held by YSRCP. Let's talk about Shiv Sena. So obsessed they are with targeting Kangana Ranaut in the city of Mumbai that they've completely forgotten that we are still living in times of a pandemic. And the Shiv Sena workers gathered outside the airport the day the actor was landing back into the city to protest. Horrifying that visual was from outside the Mumbai airport. BJP, here's another example. Same issue. They have forgotten that there is COVID in this country. They are more interested in coming out in support of Kangana Ranaut in the city of Shimla because she belongs to Shimla. So let's show our support there and forget about social distancing. Let's also remind our netas. Maybe they are the ones who need to be reminded first before you and I. Let's remind them, here are the rules. They're very simple. That's all you have to do. You have to wear a mask every time you step out of your home or are in company of other people. You have to wash your hands regularly. You have to sanitize your hands regularly. When not required, you must stay indoors. You must maintain a distance from everybody else. Not plan large crowded events. That's not on this list. That's a big no-no. Let's ask the politicians and the representatives of the political parties exactly what is it that they are thinking. I want to say good evening to Kovai Satyan, spokesperson for AIADMK, joining us this evening. Ravichandra Reddy, national spokesperson for YSRCP. Dr. Shravan Dasoju, national spokesperson for the Congress Party. But first up, Mr. Vivek Reddy of BJP Karnataka is with us. Mr. Vivek Reddy, has somebody given a call to Dilip Ghosh and explained to him that coronavirus has not gone anywhere?
Well, I think, Tanvi, first of all, these sort of exposures to corona pose a danger. And this is across the party lines that I'm speaking. Such things cannot happen. And the party has also given advisories to all its state units that particularly in the state offices and throughout and with respect to all its political activities, it has to be very moderated. It has to be very limited. Even major meetings within party offices are not happening. In Karnataka, party meetings are now reduced to webinars, where the people are addressed from their homes and from the party office, and they reach their homes wherever they are. And very limited number of people come to the party office. This is ensured throughout India. And I think this policy has to be taken to the people also. There is no compromise on this. That is the position of the BJP. And Mr. Dilip Ghosh also must be in a position to guide the people and tell them that we have to be careful. I think given this situation, Tanvi, I think there are rare instances which should not happen, I say. Rare instances such as festivals or places sometimes when people accumulate, congregate, and that's when these have a potential to become super spreaders. In fact, Corona looks for such situations. The virus doesn't discriminate between any party or between any festival or between any people. So we have to be careful. The national BJP has ensured this cautionary policy. And we hope that the entire rank and file of the BJP, which is now following it and which will continue to follow it, will not give scope for any such instance also.
No, Mr. Vivek Reddy, that's all fine for you to come here and sit here and say it, but I am simply concerned we've not even officially entered the election season in West Bengal. And here is the state chief of West Bengal for BJP who is more interested in holding rallies than fighting coronavirus. He's misleading people and saying COVID ja chuka hai. That's not done. And I'm surprised that nobody from the leadership has called him and told him he's going to lead your entire party in that state. What will happen next? I'm dreading to think about it.
No, I've already told you, Tanvi, that the directive from the party is that we have to be careful about corona and we have to ensure that there is social distancing and we have to avoid mass rallies as much as possible. This has been the official party position. There are some instances where people congregate here and there. Even this should not happen. And of course, I would also like to see the context in which Mr. Dilip Ghosh has made the statement. That's a different thing. But in any case, we cannot make a statement to that effect. And definitely we'll be looking at it and asking him to avoid making such statements. Because the virus is a pandemic, which will be very dangerous.
Well, I'll tell you who else needs to be told that. I have a long list. I don't know who from your party apart from you actually knows about this directive, because there is a minister in Madhya Pradesh, Mrs. Tulsi Silawat, who went and attended this rally, endorsed a rally, which was actually in support of him only for a specific irrigation project. It was a days-long procession that started from September 3rd. And the visuals that emerged day after day from that were extremely worrying. Hundreds of men and women gathered, wearing their mask below their nose, with absolutely no regard for social distancing. That's what the visuals showed in Madhya Pradesh. And this rally was backing and supporting a Madhya Pradesh minister who himself tested positive in the month of July. Clearly, completely forgot about it, or the fact that in Madhya Pradesh cities like Bhopal and Indore are still struggling. So my point here is, and let me take it across to our other panelists, despite witnessing a high number of cases amongst politicians, why are we not learning the lesson? Let's talk about the Congress party. The Congress parties in Punjab, the finance minister violated social distancing norms himself when he went to attend an event. Large number of Congress leaders and workers were present there. And the shocking part is, Dr. Shravan, that this minister, Manpreet Badal, was himself quarantined just a few days ago. and he completely forgot and disregarded the rules.
Tanvi, can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you now. Go ahead.
Yeah, Tanvi, first of all, whether it is Congress party or Bharatiya Janata Party or for that matter any other political party or social organizations shall not indulge in violating the COVID norms. Whether Congress or BJP or anybody does, it certainly has to be taken into serious account, and we are expected to condemn it. But the point here is, as a matter of principle, Congress very clearly, in fact, Rahul Gandhi ji and Sonia Gandhi ji many times have cautioned the PCC presidents that, whenever you're doing any kind of political programs or protests, make sure that social distancing is maintained and masks are kept. And in fact, Rahul ji himself never participated in any mass congregations, if you really have noticed. But here, I appreciate Vivek saying that, he would even advise Dilip Ghosh that he should not indulge in any kind of such kind of abrasive statements. But contrasting to what Vivek said, a lot of BJP leaders and particularly the ruling government, due to their advantage of being in power, are certainly involved in large gathering programs. And election commission goes on conducting the elections. When election commission goes on conducting the elections, the political parties have no other means than going to the people. So, maybe in Bihar or in Kerala, by-elections and a lot of other places, the by-elections that have been notified. So, this is a very tricky context. If only the ruling government thinks a little more magnanimously and then comes up with certain stringent procedures by adhering to their, them by themselves, then I think rest of the political parties also will follow suit, because politics is all about fair play. If in case ruling party takes advantage of organizing the programs and then trying to be the forefront, then naturally other political parties get out of the competition and then organize these kind of programs. If you have noticed, I don't want to get into a tutu-mai kind of a debate in this, but then the fact is the Home Ministry guidelines clearly indicate that there should not be any kind of religious congregations. That's a very clear, specifically defined guidelines. But then Narendra Modi ji goes on to Ayodhya and then involves in Ramshila program. And then Ayodhya, so the UP Chief Minister goes on many times, and then he himself also involved in these kind of religious congregations. So all that I'm saying is...
But Dr. Shravan, this is not a BJP versus Congress debate. I am simply asking you to explain to me what's going on within your own party, right from Karnataka and the biggest of the Congress leaders in Karnataka all the way to Punjab and several other states. Your leaders are doing exactly the same thing. Why point fingers at others? At least in the Ayodhya event, we could see on the stage what social distancing was being maintained. Please tell me what steps are being taken when in Punjab, we are not able to hold the assembly session properly for days together because, leaders are testing positive. Why aren't the leaders learning the lesson and leading from front in following the norms? That's all I'm asking you.
Tanvi, you have absolutely picked up a right point. This is not a debate about BJP and Congress or any other political party, number one. Number two, Congress, as a matter of principle, does not believe in violating the COVID norms. Because very specifically, if you have noticed, either Sonia Gandhi ji or Rahul Gandhi ji never involved themselves in any kind of mass gatherings. If at all the finance minister of the Punjab has indulged in such kind of a thing, certainly he will be advised not to do so in the future. And we will take stringent measures and ensure that the communication is given to all political, our own political leaders and PCC presidents that they should not involve into any kind of violations. But all that I'm trying to make an appeal to you to the government is, when election commission, despite rampant growth of COVID, spread of COVID in the country, election commission goes on conducting the elections. How is that it's fair for the election commission to conduct elections and not expecting the political parties to come and organize the meeting? That's one. Two, if being a prime minister, if Narendra Modi ji himself violates the home department's guidelines of not to organize any kind of religious congregations, what is that, the role model precedents that he's setting up? So my request is this, being in the government, the ruling party or ruling government should be more magnanimous and put their pressure on the election commission and ensure that these things are not happened. The by-elections or these elections are not conducted in this kind of a crisis. Number one. Number two is
No, sir. Dr. Shravan, so effectively you are saying others should follow the rules. We will see what we have to do. That's okay, fine. Let me actually go to the others then and let me ask them what's happening. Mr. Reddy, Mr. Ravichandra Reddy, a protest in the middle of a pandemic, all right, you want to raise objections to certain issue, fine, plan a protest, but can we not come up with newer ways? Ensure there is still social distancing, ensure fewer people come, get your message across. Why are we behaving as if the coronavirus has gone away?
Already state government specifically instructed that no protest should happen from anybody. Only virtual protests and virtual rallies can happen. But these people, what they are thinking in Andhra Pradesh very much specifically, all tests are being freely conducted and total people are being freely served for COVID. And this has been introduced in Arogyasri scheme as a free thing. Entire COVID treatment will be free in Andhra Pradesh. This is not happening in any other state, all over India. So people are taking it granted. Somebody who is actually enthusiastic people and they want to conduct rallies or anything, to be forefront of that rally, they are becoming happening crowds, and crowds are happening. The automatically social distance has been ignored. So this is not suggestive or supportive for any government,
so tell me
any
this,
party person. It is not correct.
Tell me this, Mr. Ravi Reddy. Tell me this, Mr. Ravi Reddy. This protest that happened by YSRCP in Krishna district, a protest against TDP. I don't know why you're protesting against TDP when you are the ones in power. Protesters burnt an FEG. Was this planned or not?
That
How did these protesters gather? They're from your party, right?
Things has been suddenly happened. Unfortunate, it happened from our party side. We also condemned it. But we have been clearly instructed that no rally should happen. Belongs to any party, because anybody can violate their rules. Means it is the COVID is not violating its rule, and it is coming to any MLA, any minister, any person with any designation.
I'm sorry. Then that is a massive intelligence failure on behalf of the government.
Mr. Reddy, it is there. That is the pandemic effect.
Correct, Mr. Reddy. You are telling me this. But look at the visuals, hundreds of them with flags. Either there is a massive intelligence failure of your party and your government, or you knew about it and now you're saying it wasn't planned. Just look at the visuals of people have managed to gather.
Yes, we have taken
That's
stock
the whole
of it,
point.
and we have.
Now you can tell me.
We have taken stock of it, and we.
Yes, but if it was TDP workers instead of your party workers, you would have put them in jail. Would you have not?
No, not happened. Even Chandrababu Naidu violated. Chandrababu Naidu is also registered for the pandemic violation cases in Krishna district police station, and even his
Correct. You registered a case against Chandrababu Naidu,
of course,
not against your own people.
We are not. We don't want to allege. We don't want to allege tutu my comments. We don't want to do. We don't want to compare ourselves with even Chandrababu Naidu. But we don't want to violate this kind of rule violation. And we are not going to repeat. We are already instructed them.
Okay. Let me also bring in Kovai. Kovai, good to have you back with us here on the show. But Kovai, despite a high number of cases in Tamil Nadu, it tops. It's in the top 5 in the country even now. How is it that event after event of ministers only we are not able to get it right, including Chief Minister's event where norms are violated?
Thanks for having me here, Tanvi. I presume that you are referring to the images which were taken en route when Chief Minister was moving from one district to another for his review meetings during the pandemic. It is pretty clear and very clear instruction from the Chief Minister.
I'm referring to what happened in Tiruvallur, yes.
Yes, he was traveling to the nearby district for a review. And it is a very clear instructions from the Chief Minister as the head of the state and as well as being one of the head of the party that He doesn't want people to flout the norms and take COVID situation to their advantage, thinking that everything is safe. It has been clearly instructed to the party cadres. But you have to understand one thing: in politics, we have a biggest challenge that you always find in the movie industry as well as in politics. You would certainly have enthusiastic and over enthusiastic cadres who wants to impress upon a point, and you certainly will have a tough time managing these kinds of resources because they are the lifeline of the party. The cadres are the lifeline of the party. The cadre says that I am willing to put my life at stake to meet my leader, whom I love him so much, who is my icon. So marrying both the leader's idea is that let the cadre not risk his life, let him stay at home. I don't want him to come and receive me and welcome me. I want him to be safe is what the leader's vision is all about, leader's thought is all about. On the other side, you have a cadre who said, no, he is my leader, I love him so much, I want to show my face to him, I want to show my support to him at this time of pandemic, he is working hard. So there is always a level of over enthusiasm which is there, and nonetheless there is nothing can substantiate the fact that when there is a norm, and when the norm is being violated, the onus comes upon definitely to the party head and definitely to the party. In this case, yes, Chief Minister, after this incident, has clearly sent to the respective district secretaries not to flout the norms. Even if they want to follow social distance norms, please wear masks. So that's what it is being sent out right now. And I hope that people over a period of time will definitely follow it.
Irrespective. Yeah, but it's been 6 months. I think people are letting their guard down more, taking this more non-seriously now than they were in the first month or the second month. So over a period of time, things will only worsen if we don't put a stop to it now. Now, are we not, Vivek Reddy, in the biggest of our cities, fining people, imposing fines on those who break the rules? Are we not fining those who are not wearing a mask when it comes to the common man, who's breaking the rules and stepping out without a mask? Now, if we are penalizing the common man, if we are filing FIRs against our rivals when they break rules, lockdown or no lockdown, then why don't we do it for our own party people when the time comes? Vivek Reddy.
Well, I think in the Madhya Pradesh instance, we have filed FIRs. The government, though, is a BJP government, and the function was, as you stated, was a BJP function, or as was seen from the pictures. Still, we have been very neutral. We have filed cases, and there are 3 FIRs filed with respect to that incident, the function with the Kadashas. So there needs to be a sensitization of the entire situation, both amongst political workers and amongst the citizens equally. There is no doubt about it. And so far as Ram Temple is concerned, this was a function that was conducted with the permission of the state government in accordance with the existing guidelines and notifications. There was no departure from the rules. I don't know why the Congress spokesperson is so interested to stop a Ram function. I mean, they've always been so hypocritical about their understanding about the feelings of people of India that they bring it here also. But the point is this: if you have this function with social distancing, with minimum number of people, and abiding by the directions of the Supreme Court that you can have this function, you can do this function within 3 months, where you can start establishing the temple, I don't think there should be a problem. But the issue is, Tanvi, there has to be sensitization, and I don't subscribe to Mr. Kovai.
Please explain to me, any 4 of you, please explain to me right now, what are these functions which are so important? What are these political rallies or events which are so important? Why do we feel there's such an grave, dire need to show our faces to people, to pretend as if we are doing some work? Why don't we simply focus on the work? Any of you, please tell me, why is it so important to have these rallies now, in the middle of a pandemic?
There is one thing that the Congress spokesperson said. For once, if we take that line taken by him, the announcement of the elections by the Election Commission is a basis for us to go to the people. All political parties have to go to the people. Now, even despite the COVID pandemic, the American elections haven't stopped. They are going on. They are the presidential elections of America.
I'm sorry,
which is
in
going on
none of the instances are you actually following the rules of the Election Commission? No, I can take you through the guidelines of Election Commission, the rules that have come out for COVID. They are not being followed when it comes to the rallies. Let's not pretend we are following those rules.
No, Tanvi, that is the point. That is the point. Not everybody
And there is no
webinar
election
enabled.
in Tamil Nadu right away. There is no election in Madhya Pradesh for sure, or Karnataka for sure. Political events are happening.
No, Kovai Satyan said that, the leader is trying to pacify them not to come, but they are still coming. Well, that sort of a culture is not the culture that we can accept. But the real issue is that in every election, everybody is not webinar enabled. So you will have to reach out to the people. That is one extreme that you have to cater to in a democracy. The other extreme is every political party is in the competition to reach out to people. So in this process, we have huge population in this country. There are rare instances where you find this happening, but we must, as far as possible, eliminate that.
Vivek, to answer Vivek.
Okay, last comment from Yes, go ahead. Yes, Dr.
Vivek, Mr. Vivek Reddy, my leader clearly said, I don't want people to come out receiving me flouting the norms. That if it is inevitable, even if you want to shower your love, please come out and follow the social distancing norms, wearing a proper mask. That's how I want to be received. So
no,
the
that
first
is what
place
Tanvi
he
is
said to stay
asking.
at home.
Is it necessary to shower love now? That is what Tanvi
No,
is asking.
you cannot stop a cadre. Can you? If Narendra Modi comes to your town, would you ask your cadre not to come?
So people will go out, hold rallies, attend events which are being held in their honor, show their faces, and then blame the people for coming out and seeing them. Yes, the people have to follow the rules, but you lead by example. Kovai, you lead by example. Dr. Shravan, you lead by example. Ramachandra Reddy and Vivek Reddy. And we're not leading by example. Hold everything virtually. Why can't we hold our events virtually? Why can't we release videos? Why can't we let the people on the ground spread the word of the Chief Minister? Why is it so necessary that every single day the minister has to be visible everywhere? That's the whole point. Everybody is upgrading themselves, changing their lifestyles, changing the way they are working. Politicians need to learn to do that as well. Politicians are no different. The rules have to be the same for every single person in this country during this pandemic as well. And just because you say elections are being allowed to held, so we should be holding large rallies, we should be allowed to hold protests, we should be allowed to mislead people by saying COVID has gone away and we are only implementing a lockdown to stop BJP from holding rallies. That's essentially BJP's point in West Bengal. That Mamata Banerjee is imposing rallies so that BJP is imposing a lockdown so that BJP doesn't really hold their rallies. That's what it's coming down to. I think politicians are so used to being in the limelight that they just can't stay away from it. They love that feeling of hundreds and thousands of people who've gathered there with flags and banners just to see their leader, just to see their neta. And they just want that. Everything else is an excuse. You want to do real work, you can sit in your office and do real work and govern. You don't have to necessarily every day step out. Unless you enjoy the attention, and then it's easy to say that no, we have told people to really follow the norms. Is that what it is? Or is it that you're the politician, are dying for people's attention and want to be in the limelight? Think about it, viewers. This is a 90-minute special we've done right now on COVID, our Friday COVID review, as the country inches towards the 1 lakh cases on a daily basis mark. This is not a good situation because we are letting our guard down. Think about it. The politicians are letting their guard down. We are letting our guard down. And that's essentially what is causing this problem right now. Thank you so much for joining us in this debate.